Today's Lotus isn't the Lotus of the past. Back then, the automaker was known for one motto: simplify, then add lightness. Now, Lotus has complex supercars and electric SUVs, but one modern Lotus still clings to the old days, at least for now, and that's the Amira. It may be warm in San Diego, but here on Palomar Mountain, this Lotus Emira is about to make things even hotter. The Amira showcases one of the most beloved layouts in the car world: manual, mid-engine, rear-wheel drive. First, you've got the manual transmission. It may not be the most popular choice in America, but this is the transmission you get when you don't mind trading a bit of inconvenience in traffic for a lot of joy outside of it. Incredibly engaging, incredibly dedicated to preserving car enthusiasm, and incredibly fun. And that shifting action. Then you've got the mid-engine, rear-wheel drive layout. Strong ties to high-end mid-engine supercars, but with more reasonable power figures and a more accessible price point. And if you take the Amira to the racetrack, it really gets around those corners. My kind of car. Probably yours too.
Is this a Miata?
No, it's British. Impractical. Good on canyon roads.
Okay.
The Lotus Emira is a car enthusiast's dream. It debuted with the option for a manual transmission, the kind of beautiful sports car styling we expect from Lotus, and two engine options: a turbocharged 4-cylinder from Mercedes-AMG's performance division, and a very familiar 3.5-liter supercharged V6 sourced from Toyota. This is the V6. It has 400 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. That goes through a 6-speed manual transmission to the rear wheels. And because this is a Toyota power plant, the engine and the transmission are from Japan. The Lotus Emira is incredible. Everything about this car, from the upholstery to the way it drives, screams nimble, purist sports car. It almost feels like a tiny manual transmission cousin to a McLaren 720S or a Lamborghini Huracan. Sure, it's $125,000 US, but you sit inside that car and the way it makes you feel is honestly kind of similar to some $300,000 supercars. But this Lotus Emira is more than just its physical presence. It's also the history behind the car. Lotus's story is long and renowned. For those of you who don't know it, here's the short version. Lotus founder Colin Chapman started building race cars in the 1940s. From there, we got more race cars, production cars, and very high acclaim from car enthusiasts. Maybe you know Lotus from its Formula One history and its iconic black and gold coloring. Or maybe you know Lotus for its beloved production cars like the teeny tiny Lotus Elise or its larger and slightly more practical sibling, the Evora. The Lotus Evora is the predecessor to this Emira. It came around in the late 2000s with a mid-engine rear-wheel drive layout, enough space for your golf clubs, and very famously, a Toyota V6 engine. The Evora lasted until 2021, and when it went off the market, it had a base price of just under $100,000 US. And to every car enthusiast's relief, the Amira immediately replaced it. truly the evolution of the Lotus Evora.
The Lotus Emira, like the Evora that came before it, is a much bigger and more practical car when we compare it to something like the Lotus Elise. The Lotus Elise is very famous, especially in America, because it got famous on the used market as a vehicle that you could buy for 30,000 US dollars, drive as many miles as you wanted, and then sell for 30,000 US dollars. This was amazing because not only was that car incredible as a driving experience, but also it looked so different that it would get people's attention, and you didn't actually have to spend that much money to do it. And if you sold it, you would make the money back. Now, that's not really the case anymore. Inflation finally got the Lotus Elise after so long, but the Lotus Elise was very important for me because I drove it for the first time about 2 years ago, and that car is a soda can. There is nothing to it. It is so small. The seats are basically like football bleachers. There's not a lot of space, and the entire center console area is a shifter and a parking brake. There's not much else. Even still, like every other car enthusiast, I dreamt of owning a Lotus Elise because of how cool it was. And when I got in it for the first time, I realized that car wasn't built for me. The seats were way too narrow for my hips, so I ended up having to drive it with my knees together and my feet sticking out in order to reach the clutch and the gas. And I realized I will never be able to own this car. I will never be able to buy this car because my hips don't fit in this car. And it was really sad for me. I felt like it ruined my dream of being able to have a Lotus. And then about a year later, I got in a Lotus Emira, and I realized, oh, this has so much more space. This has so much more practicality. I can get in this car and I can drive it. And it brought back my love and passion for Lotus sports cars because I could actually drive it comfortably and enjoy the drive. And that's really important. None of that is to say that the Lotus Emira is particularly plush or comfortable. When you're in this car, you have no frunk. You have visceral engine and shifting sounds in the cabin to add to the experience. The air conditioning, not great because you have yourself, a passenger, and the engine in a small compartment surrounded by windows. So when you turn it off or down, you're gonna get really hot. And in addition to that, the suspension is super stiff because this is a sports car. Imagine taking a shopping cart on a gravel road. Yeah, that's about what we're dealing with in here. There are some comfort features on the Lotus Emira, just not a ton. We have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We are covered in suede and leather upholstery that looks and feels pretty nice. And sure, this is a small car, but we have storage pockets kind of everywhere. I have a glove box that's small, I have a center console that's small, and then I have pockets in the doors that you can put things in. In addition to that, I have 2 actual cup holders right here, but if you put something in them, well, they're gonna hit your hand while you're shifting. So I typically don't keep anything right there. But overall, the Lotus Emira is much more comfortable than the Elise. It's much bigger than the Elise. I actually have room, and it brought back my passion for Lotus sports cars when I had previously felt like they just weren't for me. And that was revolutionary, and that was amazing. That is so cool for a little British Toyota-powered sports car.
You may be sitting there like, okay, so it's a supercharged Toyota engine, so what? Well, it's kind of a big deal, to me at least. Historically and contextually, it's cool. The engine that's in this Lotus Emira is called the 2GR FE, and it's been used in all kinds of commuter Toyotas, from the Toyota Camry, to the Highlander, to various Lexus models, to even the Sienna minivan. And my friend Bozy Tatarovich, he's an auto parts expert, so I asked him, what is the closest engine in the Toyota lineup to this 2GR FE? He said the 3rd generation Toyota RAV4 that ran from 2006 to 2012. Whenever you ask Bozy a question like this, it's like he disappears into Auto Parts Narnia and he returns with a bunch of lists. So in addition to the RAV4 tie-in, he sent me a bunch of fun facts about the Lotus Emira. The AC compressor is from the RAV4. The alternator is shared with the Camry, RAV4, and Highlander from around 2010. And there are other random parts from older Toyotas, like the vapor pressure sensor for the fuel tank. That's from a 2003 to 2006 Toyota Camry. Bozy also said the transmission on this Lotus Emira is called the EA60. It has been used in tons of different vehicles and Toyotas, and a modern performance-oriented variant of this transmission is actually used in the Toyota GR Corolla, and that is one of my favorite manual transmissions on the market today. The Toyota tie-ins are cool for a couple of reasons. The first is that if someone pulls up to me and says, "Hey, what's that?" I can jokingly say it's a Toyota, and I am totally accurate in saying that. The second is more poetic. If I pull up to a stoplight and up next to me comes a 2006 Toyota RAV4, let's say I'm in a purple Lotus and they're silver. We look nothing alike, and yet deep down, on the inside, we are so much more alike than we think, which I think is relevant to the whole world.
In this Lotus Emira is so rewarding. When I shift, it clanks into gear. When I hit the accelerator, the engine just wails behind me. The brakes are so good. Not only are they powerful, but the pedal is stiff and there's not a ton of travel, just like you would expect in a race car, which is fantastic. And then the steering, oh my gosh. Not only is the steering communicative, but it is also so fast. My golden standard for production car steering racks is the Alfa Romeo Giulia because it responds to you so quickly. It's like a torpedo. You point it in the direction you want it to go and it immediately goes that way. This Amira, it rivals the Giulia. I absolutely love it. In this Amira is also amazing. There is virtually no rearing when you accelerate or diving when you brake, which is exactly what you want, because when you have a sports car, you want major inputs to keep you flat. You don't want them unsettling you and moving you in all these different directions. Now, when I'm on a mountain like this, these roads are extremely tight, and for some reason, this car actually leans toward understeer. Understeer is when a car doesn't steer enough, and typically when you have a rear-wheel drive car, you have oversteer, which was when it steers too much. But when I am driving modestly on these roads, it actually feels a little bit understeery. And guess what? You get 26 miles per gallon on the highway, at least I have been, in this vehicle. That is so good. It's like having the best of every single world. That does not mean this Lotus Emira is perfect, not even close. The trunk is kind of small. The seats sit a little bit too high. The paint, while it is a beautiful color, has some orange peel on it. Orange peel is when your application of your paint ends up being a little bit wavy instead of a flat surface, which is not the best. And then this car, which has virtually no driver assistance systems, like lane centering assist or anything like that, it still will read the traffic signs, and if you go 1 mile per hour above the speed limit, it will beep at you incessantly. Now you can turn that off on the screen, but you have to turn it off every time the car restarts. And Lotus said they're gonna fix that in a software update. But even with a few critiques, the Lotus Emira is an absolute marvel of a vehicle. Not many vehicles like this exist new today. It is so hard to find a small, manual, rear-wheel drive sports car, especially one that looks this beautiful. And because the market isn't packed, Lotus could totally phone this in and people would still buy it because there aren't many options. Lotus didn't phone this in. This is an amazing car. I think about this car all the time, and then I get in it and it's somehow better than I remembered. And that is incredible. That is such a feat.
Now for the bad news. Lotus said when the Amira debuted that the car's name translates to leader in ancient languages, which is fitting because, I quote, "The Amira is leading Lotus's last hurrah with internal combustion engines before fully embracing electrification," end quote. But electrification isn't just for other Lotus models, it's coming for the Amira too. Lotus's CEO has said that the company's planning to replace the Amira's current powertrains with a hybrid V6 soon. That means more power but no more manual transmission. And in my opinion, the transmission defines this car more than power ever could. It's especially disappointing knowing how good the Toyota GR Corolla's manual transmission is, because that transmission is a close modern relative to this one. When I think about the Amira, my first thought is always the manual transmission. What's the point of keeping it alive without its lifeblood? What's the point of driving it if I can't feel like I do when I'm driving this one, right now? The manual transmission is integral to the identity of the Lotus Emira. I asked Lotus how many people in the United States bought manual Emiras in 2025, and they told me more than 88% of model year 25 Emiras were sticks. But we also have to consider this within the larger context at Lotus. Modern Lotus is owned by Geely, which is a conglomerate out of China, where the Lotus Eletre electric SUV is made. And in 2025, Lotus sold about 6,500 models worldwide. 4,500 of those were lifestyle sedans and SUVs, and only 2,000 were sports cars. Of Lotus's global sales in 2025, 3,000 of them came from China, 2,200 came from Europe, 1,000 came from North America, and 314 came from the rest of the world. The North American sliver of Lotus sales is small, and the manual Amira sliver is even smaller. Is the manual Amira a big moneymaker for Lotus? No, probably not. But is it the essence of Lotus? Yeah, it is. Lotus, hear me out. Don't get rid of the manual Amira. Just don't. We can figure something else out, okay? So many things make this Lotus Emira special, and a few things make it a little quirky. The manual transmission is no extra charge. This purple haze paint is $3,000 US, and you'll notice on either side we have vents near the doors. If you roll down your windows, you'll hear really nice intake noises. Around the back of the Amira, you will discover that the battery is in the trunk, just like on my Miata. The vents are so big back here that you can quite literally stick your hand in and touch the rear tire, which is what I'm doing right now, and the exhaust tips have perforations in them, and they are triangles that mimic the shape of the triangle in the Lotus logo. Most of our quirks in this Lotus Emira actually come inside the car, and the first is that to start it, you have to flip up a red cover just like you would on a Lamborghini. Then we move to our driver instrument cluster, and our gas gauge is actually read from right to left, which for me as an American is backwards, but you get used to it pretty quickly. On the infotainment screen, when we do our climate controls, our little person has a racing helmet on, which is cute, and then you look down and our pause play button right here looks really familiar, and I wondered why. I immediately thought, oh, I've seen that in a Volvo. Volvo is also owned by Geely, so we share some of the same features and parts. And another Volvo feature is that when you are doing cruise control in this Lotus Emira, when you tap it up once, it goes up in 5-mile-per-hour increments, which is so weird. And then if you hold it, it goes up in 1-mile-per-hour increments, but really fast. I would rather that be the opposite. I love the Lotus Emira as a vehicle, and I love showing off its quirks, but I know that if this car ever does go automatic only, people will care a lot less about those quirks, and that makes me sad. I don't know what the future holds for the Lotus Emira. Car companies and their leaders make a lot of years-out promises that never come to pass, either by virtue of rolling back on those promises or making empty ones in the first place. Perhaps the Lotus Emira won't go automatic only. Perhaps it will preserve all the enthusiasm and purity that car enthusiasts want from a high-end sports car. And perhaps we will all be happy forever and ever. Amen. But perhaps the automatic-only era does dawn on us. Perhaps we will lose the thing we love most about this car, which is the fact that we can drive a silly, supercharged Toyota V6 with purple paint and an incredible sports car body, and shift it ourselves. Perhaps good things don't last forever. Perhaps the party's all done. All I know is that right here, right now, I am on a scenic California mountain, burning way too much gas and having the time of my life in a tiny purple sports car. I first drove the Lotus Emira 2 years ago, and its memory has been running through my head ever since. The same will be the case with this car. I hope Lotus continues making cars just like this, or else this may be the end of my memories with it, and that would be awful.